Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk with the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam L, and this is Talk with the Titans. Tonight, we've got an absolutely fantastic show lined up for you. I know it's going to be real controversial. We're talking Freemasonry, okay? We're going into Freemasonry, and hopefully we can touch on some conspiracy theories. We can go into some Illuminati. We're definitely going to give you a nice overview of what Freemasonry is, not from a particular vantage point, but from the vantage point of a Freemason itself, okay? So if you want to get inside of the minds and the ideology of Freemasonry, trust me, this is the place to be, okay? You might think that Freemasonry is a secret society that shies away from the public and hides itself, but guess what? We've got brothers right now from our own particular community going to break down Freemasonry, bring you in to the light of Freemasonry, and hopefully it might just touch some people's hearts out there and change certain perspectives. You never know. You might be, ASKing, asking, seeking, and knocking. You might be just knocking on a lodge door near you and asking certain Mason brothers like, tell me some more information. So, yeah, family, let me get it in. Let me introduce my my Titan for today, and that's my brother Simba. Peace to you, King.
Peace, Kalam. What's going on, brother?
Oh man, all is well, man. I can't wait to have this discussion. This topic has been bubbling up. We've had a couple Freemasons, a couple Freemasons on the show. I think it was last year, and they gave a nice breakdown of Freemasonry. Please go and check that out if you guys have missed it. I can't remember the title now, but just type in Titans TV Freemasonry, and I'm sure you'll see the show with my brother Konsu and another brother from Team Osiris as well. Brother Ben, that gave a nice, beautiful breakdown of Freemasonry. But today, we're going to get it from the UK perspective, yeah? You're in the UK, is that correct, my brother?
That's right.
That's
London,
right.
UK.
The UK, and you're an African brother from the UK repping Freemasonry. Young brother at that, because you know what? I know plenty Freemasons, and the majority of them are European, number one. And they are quite elderly. They're like 70, 60 years up. So it is, you are a peculiar adornment in Freemasonry right about now. So, I definitely would love to hear, and, definitely love to hear your perspective of Freemasonry and how you actually came by it as well. But before all of that, what you saying, family, notification gang? Have you not received the notification so far? If you haven't, okay, just go down. There's a bell icon literally down at the bottom of the screen somewhere. Hit the bell icon and you'll be alerted to any of our new shows, okay? Any of our new shows, any live streams going on, any Speakers Corner content, anything like that, you will be alerted for it. So please hit that icon and let's get it in, all right? As well, family, show us the love. I haven't actually promoted this show as I wanted to. Okay, we were supposed to do this show on Thursday, but I didn't get the opportunity to promote it as much as I can. So please give us those big thumbs up from the get-go. Hit the like button, man. If you support Titans TV, there's over 50 people here right now tuned in. I know it's going to jump to about 100, and I wanted to jump to the next 200, okay, in the next hour. So please, family, jump in, hit the like button. Let us know that you're feeling what we're all about. We're all about free speech. We're all about diverse information, controversial information, mind-boggling information that really gets you to think. Okay, so please hit the like buttons and share. If it's Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Google, wherever you are, just share it. Let everybody know that we're live right now on Titans TV with my brother Simba, and we're addressing Freemasonry from a Freemason standpoint as well. I'm going to definitely get your questions in, okay? Just literally tag Titans TV, and I will definitely try to address your questions in the live stream for you guys as well. So let's get it in, man. Let's get it in, family. Freemasonry all the way. So my brother, okay? I know you've got a presentation lined up, so let me actually ask you some questions that's actually pertinent to the presentation. And let me share my screen at the same time. The first question I got to ask you is, okay, what is Freemasonry?
All right. So might as well just go into the presentation. Right. Well, let me just say this from the outset, though. There are certain things that I can't disclose, obviously, because what every Mason does is take an oath to not reveal the secrets, the inner secrets of Freemasonry. So I'm afraid I can't give you any, secret passwords, any secret signs, secret salutes, secret handshakes. All of that stays within the lodge, and you have to be initiated to be privy to that sort of information. But what I will give you is a sort of basic understanding of what Freemasonry is. And what I also want to do is shed a bit of light on some of the African origins of Freemasonry. And all of this is very basic, it's very introductory, it's nothing deep, it's just to give you an idea. And I'm going to look forward to your questions afterwards too. So let's get into it. So Freemasonry consists of a body of men banding together for the purpose of mutual intellectual, social, and moral improvement, and pledge to preserve the mysteries, privileges, customs, and ceremonials. Its members endeavor to cultivate and exhibit three foundational principles of brotherly love, relief, and truth to one another and the world at large. So that's what Freemasonry is. It's a fraternal order. It's a brotherhood. It's an association. It's a society. It's where different men come together for the sake of social and moral improvement. That's what the mission of Freemasonry is. It's to take good men and to make those men better through spiritual improvement. Now, if you're looking at the screen at the first slide, at the top right, you're going to see a group of Freemasons within a lodge, wearing the regalia and holding some of the symbols that you might be familiar with in Freemasonry. If you look to the left, you have a few Masonic symbols, and I want to go through just a quick description of these symbols. So if we start at the top, what you find is a triangle, and that triangle is actually a pyramid. And pyramids are very important in Freemasonry because what we are as Masons is craftsmen. And the pyramid, especially in the ancient world, represents the highest standard of craftsmanship. And of course, as you know, pyramids, the first pyramids, come out of Africa and the Nile Valley civilization. If you look around the pyramid, you see these yellow lines going out from the pyramid. That represents the sun. And what the sun represents in Masonry is knowledge, enlightenment, and truth. And that's what Freemasonry is all about. It's about spiritual, moral truth. And the sun also represents the god Ra. When I say God, just for the sake of this conversation. But Ra is an ancient Egyptian god, so to speak. And what Ra represents in the ancient Egyptian religion, quote unquote, is both creation, because he is a creator god, but he also represents the sun. So when Masons speak of the Most High God, I'm not saying that they worship in Ra. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, Freemasonry is about people of different religions come together. So the names that we use for God are quite neutral. But what I am saying is that one of the earliest conceptions, or one of the first conceptions of God in Masonry, alludes to Ra, because Ra is both the creator God and he's also represents the sun, and that's what that's all about. If you look in the middle of the pyramid, you see the eye. The eye in Masonry represents the eye of God, or what's called the eye of providence. But where it comes from, as I'll expand on later on, is from ancient Egypt. It also represents the eye of Horus, or Heru, or what's called the Wajet. And what the eye symbolizes is the all-seeing eye, it's sometimes called, is the fact that God can see everything, that God can see all our actions and all our deeds, and therefore we should act righteously. If you go slightly down, what you find are the square and the compasses, which is probably the most common symbol of Freemasonry. The compass, with its movable legs, represents the spirit. The square represents matter. It's unmovable. The legs are unmovable in the square, so it represents matter. And the fact that the compass and the square are shown together like this suggests that spirituality and materialism go hand.
Okay. You don't hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, family. I think you guys can. I'm afraid that my brother has just jumped out real quickly. So let me just take it off where he left off. Yes. I'm playing. I'm playing. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna wait for a hot second and see what to do. My brother should be back on soon. So I believe he left off where the the square and the compasses. I believe he's saying that the square represents matter, and then the compasses represents spirituality, I would guess, and it's to do with the combination of both coming into unity with each other. So it's the circle and the square, two diametrically opposed substances, two diametrically opposed forms or shapes. The square adding up to 360 degrees, and then the circle also adding up to 360 degrees. They're same in essence, but different in manifestation. Next, he was going into, I believe, the G in the center, which technically represents the grand architect of the universe, or it represents God itself, okay? And it's also an allusion to both the circle and the square, or the set square and the compasses as well, both being utilized to actually create the G, okay? You can utilize the circle and the square to create the G inside of sacred geometry itself. And then, of course, with inside of the middle, I don't know if I've got my screen showing it at present, but I'm going to speak on his behalf. And I'm going to say that in the middle, you have, what do you have in the middle? We actually have...
Man, what happened?
I don't know what happened, King. I'm just trying to roll it on for you. So in the middle,
Man,
you
where did I
have
cut off?
the handshakes that shows fidelity and loyalty to your fellow man, brother, and Mason. My brother, please take over.
Oh, so is that where I left off, at the handshake?
I believe you left off somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so if you look around the square and the compass, what you find is plants, and plants represent nourishment. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah. Yeah, so if you look to the left, what you find is the United Grand Lodge of England, which is the governing body of Freemasonry here in England. See, one of the misconceptions of Freemasonry is that it's somehow just one international organization, and it isn't. What you have in different sort of geographical domains is independent Grand Lodges. And here in England and Wales, you find the United Grand Lodge of England. But if you go to Scotland, they have their own Grand Lodge. If you go to Ireland, they have their own Grand Lodge. If you go over to America, every state will have its own independent Grand Lodge. And I can't stress that enough. Each of these Grand Lodges are independent from one another. There is no one universal governing body of Freemasonry. There is no one Freemason who's somehow senior to all of us and telling us all what to do. You know, that's all misconceptions. If you look at the middle picture, that's the inside of the United Grand Lodge. And if you look to the far right, that's the Constitution, if you will. That's within that book, you have all of the staples, if you will, of of Freemasonry here in England. Yeah, so that's what that's all about. We can go to the next slide, Kalam. So here are just a few quick facts about Freemasonry. Number one, there are over 200,000 Freemasons belonging to more than 7,000 lodges throughout England and Wales and districts overseas. Worldwide, the figure rises to 6 million Freemasons. Freemasonry is not a religion. You know, I cannot emphasize that enough. You know, one of the misconceptions is that we have our own gods and we have our own Bibles and we're a religion or we're a cult. That is further from the truth. We are a secular organization. Freemasonry is not a political organization, nor is Freemasonry a secret society. We're a society that has secrets, like most organizations anywhere around the world. And that's absolutely critical to emphasize. Members come from all walks of life and meet as equals, wherever their race, religion, nationality, or socio-economic position in society. So if you look at Freemasonry, you'll find men of every color, of every race, of every ethnicity, of every nationality, of every social income. You'll find royals who are Freemasons, and you'll find, working class men who are Freemasons. But when you come into the lodge, we're all equals, and we refer to one another as brothers. Every Freemason embarks on his own journey of self-discovery when he enters the organization. So that's another thing too. It isn't this. Again, it isn't a cult. There isn't one person, ramming down all this information at you. It's a spiritual thing, and spirituality is all about the individual. It's all about what you get out of it. So when I was talking about the symbols at the beginning, that's just my conception. Another person could have another Mason could have a completely different conception. So it's all about who you are as an individual, and it's about your individual spiritual journey. And that's really the beauty of Freemasonry. It's about you and the way you see the world and your own personal journey. Eligibility for initiation requires that a man be 21 years old, of good repute, and possess a belief in the supreme being. Okay, so if you want to be a Freemason, you got to be a man, I'm afraid. I mean, although there are separate women orders, you have to be over 21 years old, you have to be of good reputation, and most importantly, you have to have a belief in the supreme being. You have to, have some, adherence to the concept of a higher being. Now, whoever that higher being is, that's completely up to you. It could be Allah, it could be Jehovah, it could be, Brahma, whoever it is. But Freemasonry requires that you have that you harbor a belief in the supreme being before you're initiated. So if we can go to the next one. Yes, and these are 3 basic principles of Freemasonry. If you want to know what Freemasonry is all about, although there's a lot to it, it can all be condensed down to these 3 basic principles. Okay, so you have brotherly love, relief, and truth. And let's break that down now. So next slide, brother. Brotherly love. The craft affirms the fatherhood of God and brotherhood of man. Brotherly love requires that Masons be tolerant, respectful, kind, and understanding, irrespective of race, religion, nationality, or social status. Masonry is a leveler, meaning that you meet and become friends with a broad spectrum of people of all races, nationalities, and professions. So we're all equal in the lodge. And the whole point of brotherly love is that you treat every person with courtesy, not just Masons, but all people. And that's one of the great teachings of Freemasonry. So if we go to the next slide. Relief has to do with charity. So from the earliest times, Freemasons have been taught to help those in distress without detriment to their own dependents and to give their support to outside charities. We also strive to help our brethren and their families who are ill or in distressed circumstances. In England and Wales, Freemasons have contributed more to other charities than any charitable body, superseded only by the National Lottery. So that's one thing a lot of people don't know here in England, is that no other organization has given more to charity than Freemasons, with the exception of the National Lottery. And if you look to the right, those are our 4 Masonic charities here in England and Wales. And these charities aren't just for us, for Masons, but if you're a Mason and you have a family member, for example, an elderly family member who needs help or caring, then we do have organizations that will be available to help them. But it isn't just for Masons; it's for other people too. Another example I could give you is I knew a guy, a fellow Mason, who was doing his master's degree, and he didn't have the money to finish to complete his master's degree, so he applied to one of our charities, and they were able to give him the money to finish his master's degree. So that's what that's all about. It's about charity, helping ourselves and our families, but not just us, outside charities too. So if we go to the next slide, brother Kalam. And truth. As Freemasons, we continue to seek to better ourselves and the world around us through the pursuit of knowledge. At its core, Freemasonry is about the nature of truth. Together, we pursue wisdom and enlightenment through a system of values. We use symbols and allegory because they are the surest way in which our shared truth may be taught. Through these symbols and our shared traditions, each Mason defines and discovers his own unique path. So similar to the point I made earlier on, it's an individual spiritual journey. And and the symbols are really important too, because you got to remember, everyone can't read and write, but symbols. Symbols are a great way to convey messages, and also symbols again, going back to the spiritual point, different people get different messages from symbols. So if I write something down, then that's all it is. But if I give you a symbol, then behind that symbol is a deeper spiritual meaning. And where does that come from? All that comes from the Nile Valley civilization. You know, it's in the Nile Valley that you find the first sort of conception of conveying deep spiritual truths through symbolism. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so here I just want to make a brief point before we continue in the difference between operative and speculative masonry. Operative masonry refers to the actual craft of stone masonry. Speculative masonry is a peculiar system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. So Freemasonry, in its modern incarnation, comes out of stone, emerges out of stone masonry. If you know what stone masonry is the design and construction of buildings using stone. So the first Freemasons, if you will, in this country, were actually stone masons who formed organizations and kept their secrets within those organizations. So if you look at the picture at the bottom, that's stone masonry during the medieval period, some 400 or 500 years ago. And if you look at the top picture, these are modern Freemasons. So the old stonemasons were people who actually built buildings, whereas modern Freemasons, we don't actually build buildings, obviously not, but what we do is use the symbolism of stonemasonry and use those symbols to convey spiritual truths. So if we go to the next slide, brother. So yeah, so just to expand on this a little bit, if you look at the Masonic development in the West in the medieval period between the 14th and 16th century, medieval operative stone guilds, and the guild is like an association, a fraternity, a brotherhood, an organization, were the builders of Europe's greatest cathedrals. These guilds would induct new apprentices and pass on secrets of their crafts, which include oaths, password, handshakes. And if you look at the bottom right picture, I think that's Salisbury Cathedral here in England. All of these cathedrals that you see across Europe were built by stone masons. You know what you see, and if you look at the pictures above, on the top left, you see the stonemason using a compass. And he's got a square in his hand too. So that's where these symbols, some of these symbols, come from. And the elite class that were free to travel unlike serfs, hence the term Freemasons, because during the medieval period, you had a feudalistic mode of production, which meant that people worked on land owned by aristocrats, and they couldn't move from that land. They were contracted to work on that land and stay on that land. Whereas Masons, they weren't serfs, they weren't peasants. They had the ability to travel throughout the country and throughout wherever they wanted to. They were free to do so, and hence the term Freemasons. So if we move to the next slide. Yeah, and moving into the Renaissance period in the 17th century, what you find in Europe is the sort of development in science and technology and philosophy. So moving into the Renaissance period, operative masonry transformed into speculative masonry, as stonemason guilds admitted non-operative masons from the nobility and the bourgeoisie. So what these stonemasons start doing, these guilds, these organizations, is incorporating members who aren't actually stonemasons by trade. They just happen to be members of the nobility and the bourgeoisie. And what that starts to do is transform these lodges from actual stonemasons who design and construct buildings to, modern Freemasons who use the sort of the working tools of the stonemasons as sort of symbolic gestures. Newton, Bacon, Boyle were all Masons and early members of the Royal Society, and led the intellectual flowering in the sciences such as geometry, architecture, alchemy, and astronomy, all very important to speculative masonry. To avoid persecution from government and the Catholic Church, scientific and esoteric discussion were driven underground. So if you know who Newton is, Newton's like one of the greatest, scientists ever. I mean, he's the one who formulated gravity here in the Western world, and he was a Mason, as were many of the earlier Masons. And all of these sciences are really important to Freemasons: geometry, architecture, alchemy, astronomy. There is no Freemason without study, of these sciences. And one of the questions people often ask is, well, why is this all secret? You know, why aren't you open with your secrets? Well, because for a long time, Freemasons were persecuted by the powers that be, whether it was governments or the Catholic Church, which was really powerful in those days. So you know, they had no choice but to you know, drive these discussions underground, or be arrested and burnt at the stake, as they used to do in those days. So next slide, brother. Yeah, so if we go into the Enlightenment period, I'm just giving you a steady, you know, sort of brief history of Masonry here in the West. The Enlightenment was all about the intellectual development of the Western world. Freemasonry stood for rationalism, deism, benevolence, three of the most important characteristics of the Enlightenment ideas and ideals. Considerable developments in England, France, and America. Prominent Masons played significant roles in the French and American revolutions. So what you have when you talk about democracy, when you talk about liberalism and, you know, freedom of speech and freedom of consciousness and freedom of, you know, of association, things like that, a lot of these ideals come back to this period called the Enlightenment. And a lot of people who spearheaded the Enlightenment were Freemasons, because Freemasons believe in, you know, sort of rationalism and idealism and liberalism and freedom and knowledge and stuff like that. So if you look at some of the pictures on the right, at the bottom you've got George Washington, who was a very famous Freemason, a slave master too, it has to be said, but a Freemason nonetheless. And at the top you find a portrait of a lodge in Austria, and Mozart is actually in the middle here. And I'm actually going to touch on that in a couple of seconds. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, now what I want to do is just give you a brief sort of introduction to the African origins or the African influences in Freemasonry. And we can start here with Prince Saul. Prince Saul was a
brother. Before you even go there, you're about to drop some bombs, and I'm not even getting no feedback from the community yet. I don't know whether they're feeding this information or not. Are they taking this information for granted, or do they really appreciate this information? I want to know. Family. We have over 120 people up in here right now, and I can't see the likes elevating past 36. Come on, family, man. I ain't continuing after up. The only way I'm continuing is once we've raised the likes up to 50 likes. Once that's happened, then we can continue. So right now I'm going to go to the comment section and give some shout outs to people. Speakers Corner UK. What's good? We've got Ansir here. We've also got Honey Pharaoh in the building, asking what degree level you at, and how many years you've been a Mason. I think my brother would tell you, you know, he's coming here on the level. So I don't know. That's it. I don't think he's gonna go past that with anybody, because I don't think he's ready to espouse that yet. So let's just keep it going. What's good? Yeah, I'm locked in. What's good? Big up Kalam and Titans TV family. That's the Truth Hitman. 3D worldwide, baby. I see you. I give you like because it's your show, Kalam. I love that. Let's see. Who else we got up in here? MA Brown in the building. Of course, I've said and say already. We've got Siobhan up in here. What's good, man? Lady Divine. That's it. That's what I'm saying, man. Who else is missing? Who else is missing from here? Mega True Talk. My brother, man. I'm free, but I'm not a Mason. I like that. My brother. Okay. Okay. We've barely hit 50. Barely hit 50 likes. All right. Cool. Ahmed, what's good, family? I see you. Sorry, family. I have to do this. I have to just do these quick interruptions, because I need to know that whether you're interactive or not. So if you got any questions for my brother, oh yeah, you see that? Okay, I see. I didn't even realize I had my Naga Hamadi up there. Okay, so all I want like you guys to do, yeah, is to please. That's what I'm talking about. Young Kelly, baby, I'm here in the building. We're live right now. So what you saying, man? Freemasons, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing Freemason right now. 121 people. Rosicrucians, whoo! We need to get some Rosicrucians up in here as well. My brothers, where's my fratres and my sorors at? Come on, family. I need everybody to be tuning in. So yeah, family, if you've got any questions for my brother right now, please just tag Titans TV. Okay, tag Titans TV and add your question or comment for him. Okay, and I'll make sure I get it read out live on air right now. All right. And also, of course, we're going to get you guys on near to the end of the show. So you already know the deal. I'm not actually going to post up the link with inside of the YouTube. I'm actually going to wait. Okay. I'm going to wait until you guys have messaged me inside of Facebook, and then I will post you the link. Okay. So just message me via Facebook and I will get you the link. Harry Singh, I see you, King. You already know. You're already in here. All right. So please, please, please just message me and let's get this popping. People saying he ain't a Mason. Wow. Wow. My brother, well, I don't know what you need to do to let them know that you're a Freemason or not. But you know what? You know, it's beneath you to be having to prove whether you are a Mason or not. So let's not even go into those type of games. Do Freemasons use the Tetragrammaton? Very good question. Are you aware of the Freemasons using the Tetragrammaton?
Is he talking about the Hebrew inscription?
Yep.
Well, you do find it sometimes in some lodges. It's yeah, sometimes. I mean, but it's not. Again, I mean, we aren't a religious organization, and we don't. Although we do borrow ideals from the Bible, we aren't a Christian organization. So yeah. I mean, you will find it in some lodges. Yeah.
Will you also find it on the tracing borders as well?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's see. What else? What else, family? Can I be made moderator to post links for people? All right, cool. I'm going to make my brother Rob a moderator. Right there. Speakers Corner UK, you are now a moderator. Ahmed Mohammed says, I declare war on Masons. It's on you, Shaitan groups. Wow. Wow. Okay. So Muslims, my Muslim brothers, I don't know why you guys want to declare jihad on everybody for. Come on, family. I think these guys have got much more intellect and resources at hand to be going to war with them, man. I swear there's a saying, you know, your arms are too short to box with God. All right, so just be careful. Ask any questions that you may have for the brother. Like, this is your opportunity to ask a Freemason questions, okay? We don't need to get no attacks in. We just need to ask our brothers these questions, okay? Because we can learn a lot from these brothers here, all right? So we've got here, why do Freemasons use it? Why do Freemasons, I would believe, use the Tetragrammaton?
Well, we use lots of symbols to convey different meanings. And Yahweh, you know, it's one conception of the supreme being. But you know, and it's a cultural thing too. If you go to, you know, parts of the Middle East, if you go to lodges in the Middle East, you probably wouldn't find it. You probably find, you know, more sort of Islamic symbols. You know, if you go to India, you'll find sort of symbols pertaining to Hinduism. So it's a more of a cultural thing than anything else. You know, Britain does have a sort of Judeo-Christian heritage, and therefore you will find sort of biblical, you know, sort of symbols here and there, but it's nothing deep. You know, we aren't Christians, we aren't Muslims, we aren't a religious organization at all. Yeah.
Okay, I think you've kind of touched on the question that Papa IKUW has asked. Ask here a question: does your lodge have all 3 books?
What books? What? Your own book?
I know. I would assume he's asking. I would assume it would be the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran.
Okay, so yeah, so the name, every lodge would have what's called a volume of the sacred law, and you know, depending on where you are in the world, you know, it will differ. So in the Western world, it tends to be the Bible. You will have an open Bible at the altar. Yeah, but again, if you go to the Middle East, or you know, with your Quran, if you go to, you know, wherever in the world, you'd have the sort of the sacred book of the sort of local dominant religion. So yeah, so in our lodges, we'd have an open Bible. Yeah.
All right. And other brothers are saying here, Ahmed, okay, you don't speak for all of Muslims, okay? So hold it down, King. There's only one Muslim that made
Freemasons.
You saying there's a lot of Muslims are Freemasons.
Yeah.
You saying even the imams are Freemasons, yeah?
A lot of them, yeah.
Oh wow, that's going to cause some controversy. I think my brothers are going to be going back to their masjid and saying, yo, Imam, are you a Freemason? That's going to be another conversation for another day. And I heard that a lot of Christian pastors, a lot of people up in different stratosphere are actually Freemasons. So it's going to be quite interesting that we're going to start having these conversations with individuals. So, you know, we might start going up to someone and say, are you a Mason? Are you a Freemason? I don't know. Let me know. All right, let me see what else we got here. Why did these guys want to become a Freemasons? What are the benefits? I'm going to do those questions a bit later. Let me just see. Okay, so yeah, I see a few of these questions that's definitely going to be going on a little bit later on. We'll ask them. Yeah, shout out to Jonah Heyer as well. Let's see. All right, so let's get back into this. I do apologize. I'm unable to share my screen like I usually do. So it may just take a little while for me to get the application up. So let's get back into your presentation, King.
All right. So the African origins of Freemasonry. Yeah. And just before so I'll make that point later on. So we'll start with Prince Hall. Prince Hall, or I should call him the most worshipful master, Prince Hall, just to give him the respect that he deserves. Was born in 1735 and died in 1805 in the United States of America. What's called America now. It was probably called the 13 states then. He's the father of Prince Hall Masonry. Prince Hall, one of Boston's most prominent citizens, was one of Boston's most prominent citizens and a soldier during the Revolutionary period. In 1775, Hall and 14 other free blacks joined the British Army Lodge of Masons, who were stationed in Boston. After the British departed, they formed their own lodge, African Lodge No. 1, a lodge of the Honourable Society of Free and Accepted Masons. Hall became the lodge's first Grand Master. It was also the first society in American history devoted to social, political, and economic improvement for African Americans. So there's a lot of stuff there, and I'm just going to unpackage it a little bit. I'm going to start from the last part where it says it was the first society in American history devoted to the social, political, and economic improvement of African Americans. Masonry teaches us to be particularly concerned with the welfare of our neighbors. So this idea of somehow Freemasons being somehow this rich cabal of this cabal of rich men who sort of just steal and then just control and then cause mayhem and havoc. And it's furthest thing from the truth. Charity or relief is absolutely essential to what we do. And actually, if you look at some of the greatest organizations in the world, especially even in the black community, as I've shown here, a lot of these organizations are founded by Masons. So that's something to think about too. And Prince Hall was one of the greatest Americans who ever lived. He was an abolitionist, he was a soldier, and he was a civil rights activist. Long before there was a Martin Luther King, there was Prince Hall, and Prince Hall was a Mason. And when blacks couldn't join the Masonic lodges, the white Masonic lodges in America, Prince Hall, through the Grand Lodge of Ireland, formed his own lodge. So today in America, most black Freemasons tend to be Prince Hall lodges, Prince Hall Freemasons, and they tend to belong to the Prince Hall lodges that have their origin with this man here, Prince Hall. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, Prince Hall Masons are the oldest and largest group of Masons of African origin in the world. Today, there are 40 Grand Lodges of Prince Hall Freemasonry in the United States, Canada, and Bahamas and Liberia. These Grand Lodges preside over more than 5,000 lodges. All of them claim descent from the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, which is traced back to the African Lodge number 459. So if you look to your right, these are some of the famous black Prince Hall Masons in America. So you've got Shaquille O'Neal there, you've got Count Basie, Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest boxer who ever lived, according to Muhammad Ali. You've got Alex Haley, who wrote Malcolm X's biography. I've got a picture of Malcolm X behind me. You've got Booker T. Washington. Just a whole litany of prominent African Americans, who've done great works, not just for themselves but for their communities, and that's what Freemasonry is all about. But, so we can go to the next slide. And here you have a few portraits of Prince Hall Freemasons. So if you start from the bottom right, from the top right actually, it's the oldest portrait. So this stuff goes back hundreds of years. And at the bottom right, you've got the Grand Lodge of Alabama. So every state has its own independent Prince Hall Grand Lodge. And yeah, and these men are doctors, they're lawyers, they're engineers, they're accountants, they're everyday ordinary men. And what Freemasonry does is help them become better men, and men who care about their community and contribute to the improvement of their community. So we can go to the next slide. So yeah, so we've looked at Prince Hall. Another figure I want to bring up is Angelo Soliman, or Worshipful Master Angelo Soliman, born in 1721, and he died in 1796. Now in Freemasonry, Angelo Soliman is known as the father of pure Masonic thought and the princely Moor. Between 1781 and 1786, Soliman became a member of True Harmony Masonic Lodge in Austria. The lodge had many famous members such as Mozart and Haydn, who was a scientist. Soliman rose to the level of Worshipful Master in our modern day lodges. And by the way, the Worshipful Master is in a way, the boss of the lodge, if you will, for lack of a better term. It was in this role that he initiated one of the biggest changes in the ritual of the lodge, one that has reverberated down through the ages. Up until this time, the lodge was often just a time for brothers to get together and eat, drink, and be merry. And what Angelo Soliman did was introduce the reading of scholarly and scientific papers. So up until this point, lodges was just about men getting together and socializing. But what Soliman did was introduce the reading of scholarly and scientific papers, because Soliman was, for all intents and purposes, a genius. He spoke several languages. He was adept in geometry and astronomy and the liberal sciences and the liberal arts, I should say. And through his position as Worshipful Master, which True Harmony Lodge, these are some of the changes he made. And these changes are observed in lodges throughout Europe and the world. So, that's someone else you should look into. We can go to the next slide. So I want to talk a bit about the Moors. And before I do so, let me read this quote here. The reign of their horses were as fire. Their faces black as pitch, their eyes shone like burning candles. Their horses were swift as leopards, and the riders fiercer than a wolf in the sheepfold at night. The noble Goths were broken in an hour, quicker than a tongue can tell, O luckless Spain. That's a quote of a European scholar, and you can find that quote in Ivan van Sertima's book, The Golden Age and the Moor. The Moors are Africans, a mixture of sort of Arabs, Berbers, and what you'd call sub-Saharan Africans. And these are people who occupied Spain for hundreds of years. And during that tenure, they introduced a great deal of learning into Spain. There was improvements in astronomy and alchemy and architecture, you name it. In fact, there would be no European Renaissance, without the Moors occupying what we today call Spain, Portugal, and southern France. So if we go to the next slide, if you look at the picture at the left, those are what you call Shriners. Now, Shriners are an independent body of Freemasonry. So every Shriner is a Freemason by definition. And if you look at their emblem, if you look at their fezzes, you find this symbol in the middle. And it's interesting because you find two African symbols in all of this. And I won't detail the whole symbol, but I will point out two features. The first is the Sphinx in the middle, which is the oldest colossal statue in Egypt. It's older than the pyramids, older than the temples. And Masons know this. And Masons, showing their appreciation to Egyptian or Kemetic architecture, carry this symbol to this modern day. And above the Sphinx, what you find is this sword, which is called a scimitar, which is a sort of Moorish. It's one of the swords that the Moors used to carry during their heyday. And the picture to the right is it's Morgan Freeman, the actor, and he's holding the scimitar. And that's from the movie, I think it's the Robin Hood movie, I can't remember the name. But that's just something to think about. It's we've gone over Prince Hall and Angelo Soliman. And now, you're seeing the Moorish contribution to sciences, geometry, architecture, so forth, that would in turn have a huge influence in the development of Freemasonry. So if we go to the next, so So just here's a few facts. The Spanish occupation by the Moors began in 711 AD when an African army under the leader Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the Strait of Gibraltar in northern Africa and invaded the Iberian Peninsula, Andalus. The Moors introduced new scientific techniques to Europe, such as the astrolabe, a device for measuring the position of stars and planets. Scientific progress was made in astronomy, physics, chemistry, mathematics, geography, and philosophy, which all flourished in Moorish Spain. In the 10th and 11th centuries, public libraries in Europe were non-existent, while Moorish Spain could boast of more than 70, of which the one in Cordoba housed 600,000 manuscripts. The Great Mosque of Cordoba is still one of the architectural wonders of the world. Education was universal in Moorish Spain. And this is really important too, because all of this happened during the Islamic Golden Age. At the same time, this has happened in Spain, in Timbuktu, for example, in Mali, and in Soninke. What you have is the flowering of sort of intellectual traditions that you don't find in Europe. If you look to your left, you find the astrolabe, which is the gold instrument here, which is an astronomical instrument. If you look to the bottom, it's one of the architectural wonders in Spain. It was built by Moors, and by Moorish stonemasons, I should say. And that's just an example of how where all of this comes from. Again, Freemasonry and stonemasonry is one and the same. You can't separate the two. So when you think of Freemasonry, you think of stonemasonry. And when you think of stonemasonry, you have to think about the African contribution to the craft that is stonemasonry. We were the first stonemasons anywhere in the world. And what I want to do now is to show you, some of the few examples across the African continent of some of the great stonemasonry that we did. So if we go to the next slide, what you find here is the castle at Gondar in Ethiopia, which was built in the 17th century by Ethiopian stonemasons for their emperors. If we go to the next slide, what you find the churches, this is in Lalibela. I mean, what these African stonemasons did was actually, cut out these churches from the rock. I mean, that's pretty amazing if you think about it. I mean, just, you're talking about stuff that happened hundreds of years ago. Yeah, I mean, and look at the precision on these. I mean, just look at the design on the walls here. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty, I mean, so much for Africans not being civilized. I mean, this is where civilization comes from, and this is where stonemasonry comes from. So if we go to the next slide. Another example in Southern Africa is Great Zimbabwe, which if you're the people, the Shona people in Zimbabwe built today. And these were cities in modern day Zimbabwe, built by the people of Zimbabwe. And they were fortresses too. And all of this was indigenous to that part of the land. So European anthropologists used to say, well, it can't have been Africans because, Africans don't build in stone. But actually, all modern day scholars agree that these are actually indigenous constructions. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, and that's just, an aerial shot of the Great Zimbabwe. On the left is an illustration of what Great Zimbabwe would have looked like in its heyday. So yeah, next slide. Yeah, and just another civilization, the Swahili civilizations on the East Coast. This is at Kilwa Kisiwani. And if you go to Tanzania today, this is modern day Tanzania. If you go there, you'll find lots of castles and forts and mosques, most of which are in ruins, but it's still, a tribute to sort of the genius of African stonemasonry. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, and here's some other pictures from Kilwa. And if you look at the top right, that's an illustration of what the Grand Mosque of Kilwa would have looked like in its heyday. I mean, we're talking about civilization that's about 1,000 years old. I mean, you're talking about, historians date it back to about 900 AD, and this is an indigenous African civilization on the east coast of Africa. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is really the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about today. And it's the African origins of Freemasonry in the Nile Valley. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not saying that everything about Freemasonry comes from Africa or the Nile Valley. That's not what I'm saying here. there are lots of influences that have come along the way from Greece, from the Bible, from you name it. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, after all, Freemasonry is a universal fraternal order. But I do want to point at some of the African influences in Freemasonry. And I do also want to make the point that Freemasonry, as a concept, has its origin in Africa. There's this mixing between the craft of stonemasonry and spirituality that goes back to ancient Egypt. So if we go to the next slide, so this is the Egyptian Hall at the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, and if you look throughout the hall, you've got Egypt written all over there. I mean, you've got the columns, you've got Hathor, you've got the pyramids and the hieroglyphs on the wall. You've got Heru and Mayat and Osiris or Osset. So so the influence is still strong even to this day. So let's go to the next slide. So Ptah. Ptah is, and I'll use the word God just for the sake of this conversation. Ptah is, in one of the creation myths in Kemet, one of the creator God, the God who brings the universe into existence. And he also represents architecture and craftsmanship. And that's really interesting because in Freemasonry, the term that we use for God, or the supreme being, is the great architect of the universe. Now, I want to be clear here. That's not a separate Masonic God. That's not our personal God. The great architect of the universe is both allegorical and neutral. Allegorical because we see ourselves as architects. That's what we are as craftsmen. We're geometricians, we're architects, we're stonemasons. And the highest stonemason of all is, of course, the creator, God, so to speak. So we refer to him as the great architect or the great geometrician. So it's allegorical in that sense, but it's also neutral because the great architect of the universe is not a personal name. It's not like Jehovah or Brahma or Vishnu. So because it's a neutral term, it allows people of different religions and different spiritual beliefs to come together and worship the one true divine creator. And the fact that in Freemasonry, that the great architect of the universe symbolizes both the creator deity, but also architecture or craftsmanship is really interesting because the first place you see this is in ancient Kemet, in the form of Ptah, who on the one hand is the creator, but on the other hand also represents architecture and craftsmanship. So, Ptah, in a sense, is the original great architect of the universe. So we can go to the next slide. Imhotep in Kemet was known as the son of Ptah because Imhotep, was an African genius. I mean, it was Imhotep who, constructed the first pyramid in Egypt, the step pyramid built in the third dynasty for King Joseph. And Imhotep was, he was a lot of things. I mean, he was a priest, he was a mathematician, he was a physician. I mean, he was a lot of things. But one of the things he was too was a mason, stonemason, someone who designed and constructed buildings. He was an architect, a geometrician. And in that sense, he was also the first Freemason, you could say. I mean, a lot of Masons regard Imhotep as the first Freemason. And bear in mind too, he was a priest. So, it's again, you see that the mixing between the craft of stonemasonry on the one hand and, sort of spirituality on the other hand. So we can go to the next page. So Nile Valley civilization was home to the initiatory Masonic guilds. It was also home to the world's first architectural structures. It was also home to Hermetic magic, which was developed by the priest of Tahuti. It's where you find pyramids, sphinxes, temples, and obelisk, which all feature prominently in Masonic architecture as expressions of Masonic ideals. And spiritual symbolism and allegory had its origins in Kemet too. So there's a lot there, and you could do a presentation on each one of those points. But if you look to your left, that's Tahuti. Tahuti represents or symbolizes wisdom and knowledge and intelligence. And Hermetic magic, or what's called Hermetic magic in the Western world, has its origins with Tahuti, because Hermetic comes from the word Hermes. Hermes is the Greek word for Tahuti. And all of this, so this is just another example of all of this goes back to ancient Egypt. And it's in ancient Egypt that you find first sort of initiations, the first guilds, the first, the first organizations where Masons are coming together and keeping their secrets amongst themselves. Tahuti is also the keeper of mysteries. So the mystery systems have their origins in Tahuti. So you talk about secrecy and spirituality. That goes back to ancient Egypt too. And symbolism, the usage of symbols to convey spiritual truths and spiritual meaning. That goes back to ancient Egypt too. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so what I want to do now is just talk about a few concepts that you find in Freemasonry today that have their origin in ancient Egypt. So just a few symbols, a few concepts. And nah,
I don't think so. I don't think so, Kick. I need feedback again. Because you know what? Yeah, we're almost reaching the end of this particular presentation. So I need some feedback from the family, see what they're saying, how they gravitate into this information, what type of question. I see you lot piling up the questions. Trust me, pile up the questions, and I'll definitely get them answered for you as well. Trust me, I definitely will. Man showed us Tahuti. I personally call him Al-Khidr. The green one, the one that has so much wisdom, he can tell you what's going to happen in the future. No matter how disagreeable his acts may seem, they actually may be an agreeable act. You never know. You never know. I'm playing with a certain demographic right now. So yeah, family, please, drop me some questions and some comments, because the show will be finished soon as well. If you would like to come in to the into the back chat itself, or to come onto the panel. Sorry about it. The panel, please just inbox me via Facebook, okay? Inbox me via Facebook. You can add me as a friend, but make sure you inbox me as well, because sometimes Facebook does play up. So inbox me and add me on Facebook if you haven't already. And I'll definitely get your questions read out, or you can come onto the panel to ask my brother any questions that you may actually have. Let me just see. Okay, so people are asking, are Freemasons satanic? What level Mason are you? The green one, I'm billing him now. I love that. Ask him the connection to the Illuminati, or through my body, and say, okay, cool. So I'm just seeing some of your questions, man. So quickly, if you got some questions right now, let me know. So my brother's asking, any squares in the chat? All my Masons, like, if you stand on your square, let us know, man. Let us know in the comment section if you are about. Okay, let me know if you're about. If we've got any Freemasons in the comment section, please drop some comments, man. Let me know. Let our brother know how he's doing. Is he doing well? Is he representing Freemasonry correctly? Is he representing the African perspective in Freemasonry correctly as well? So please let us know. Let us know. Okay. See, my Masons are standing up. They're dropping the symbols in the building. So someone asked here, what's the difference between Freemasonry and Rosicrucian? Do you know the difference, my brother?
Well, what I do know is that they're not one and the same. I mean, I know the Rosicrucians are a separate fraternal order, and there are similarities. I mean, they do use symbols and sort of allegory to, convey spiritual meanings. But to be honest, I don't know too much about it. But we're not one and the same thing, and it's not an appendant under your Freemason either. So you have other organizations that are affiliated with Freemasonry, but I don't think Rosicrucian is one of them.
Okay. Rosicrucian, it depends. There is various different organizations under the banner of Rosicrucian, or claiming to be a Rosicrucian or not. And they are mainly a spiritual / philosophical society, whereas Freemasonry is a moral and fraternal organization. Whereas, again, Rosicrucians is spiritual and philosophical. That's really the main difference between the two. Depending on which path you actually go through after being raised, you can go through the Scottish Rite, and there definitely is a body of Rosicroix or Rosicrucian in there. Okay. But that's something else. That's something else. That's beyond the scope of this particular presentation. Let's see. What else? What else? What else? What else we got here? Did Freemasons create Abrahamic religions?
Not to my knowledge, no. No.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna actually go and check my phone. Some people have got some questions. Okay, the brother's saying that you're doing good work, man. You're standing on your square, my brother.
No,
So I like that. What are the Freemasons doing about the deaths of Black people in police custody? This is very interesting. Can you do more content on this subject, please? We'll try. Isn't Freemasonry African?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, that's what we're talking about now. I would say that I would argue that its basis is African. That its basis comes from sort of the Nile Valley civilization. I mean, the stonemasonry starts in Africa. The guilds, these associations, which would develop into lodges, have their origin in Africa. Some of the basic concepts of such as a grand architect of the universe has its origin in Africa, etc., etc., etc.
Okay. So one of my brothers, I believe, is asking a question here. Let me put my Nollywood voice on. We have heard through the grapevine that you people do human sacrifices to be initiated. Is that true?
Hell no. Hell no, hell no, hell no.
You sure you didn't have to sacrifice any family members?
Nope, nothing spooky, nothing evil. No.
Okay, I heard that once you're a Mason, you're always a Mason.
Well, some people are born Masons. I mean, it's about your character and who you are as a person. But no, you can leave Masonry if you want to, and then you can be kicked out of Masonry too. I mean, there's certain secrets. I mean, what I'm giving you now is very light, it's very introductory. I mean, there's certain things I just I took an oath. You see my hand. I put my hand on the volume of the sacred law, and I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to reveal these secrets. So yeah, but
I heard that you had to cut your hand and let some blood drop on the Bible and stuff. Is that true?
No, not true.
Okay. But if it was true, would you tell me? I got you. All right. Somebody also asked, your subscription fees, your dues that you have to pay on an annual basis. Somebody said, I bet you it's like £5,000 for your dues. Is it possible for us to get into your finances and kind of know how much money it is?
Well, students get discounts, so that's a great thing. No, it's not 5,000. It ranges from about 200 to about £300 a year, roughly, I would say.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let's see if we've got any more stuff. Oliver Cromwell in the UK, does he know if he is a Masonry? Plus, what degree is he representing? Well, so Oliver Cromwell, was he a Freemason? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
I'm sure.
So people saying they're liking it so far.
It's difficult to say who is and wasn't a Freemason before 1717. Because in 1717 you had the first Grand Lodges established here in England. Before then, it's all conjecture. I mean, it's difficult to say who wasn't a Freemason.
Okay. And someone asked here, what are Freemasons doing about white supremacy?
Well, again, Freemasonry, like, it's not the government. It's not some kind of overarching organization that controls society. We're just individuals. Freemasonry is made up of people like me. So as far as fighting white supremacy, that's a separate conversation for us as Black people. That's not, that's got nothing to do with Freemasonry. We as a people have to come together as a people and solve that and solve those issues. And I'm not a Mason first. I'm an African first. I'm a Pan-Africanist first. Masonry is just one aspect of what I do in my life. It's not, it's not a religion. It's not a cult. It's none of that stuff.
All right. So I know we've got some questions to do with the devil and the Dajjal and the prepping of the way and so forth. But guess what? That's going to take place literally at the end of the presentation. I know he's got a section for all of that. So that's why I haven't been asking those particular questions right now live on the show. So just bear with me, family. We're going to get there. Okay. We're actually going to get there. Let me just quickly make sure that there's any more. It sounds like an Arab voice. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Big Veli, I got you, man. Don't worry, I've got you. Ask Brother, why is Masonic Brotherhood demonized? Please, later on, I will ask him that. Let me just make sure that all of your questions are being represented. Why is Masonic Lodge demonized? Okay, so a lot of people wanted to know about the demonization of Masonry. We're going to get into that later on. Okay, cool. Ooh, Harry Singh's asking some serious questions. Okay. He got tricked by some fake kids getting 300 of him. My brother, certain people doubt the veracity of
your real Mason.
Of your Masonry. Could you just let us know exactly where your Masonic lodge or temple is situated?
Yeah. So I'm a member of Rising Star Lodge 6153. Rising Star Lodge number 6153. And we're under the jurisdiction of the United Grand Lodge of England. So, yeah. So if you want to know if a lodge is real, just go and you can I'm not even sure you guys would have access to it, But
No,
no. Yeah, it probably wouldn't. Yeah, it probably wouldn't. But yeah, that's the name of the lodge, Rising Star Lodge 6153.
Okay, and could you let us know exactly where your body of lodge members actually meet for their regular meetings?
So we meet at the United Grand Lodge of England, which is here in London, at Freemasons Hall, here in London at Queen Street, Central London, near Holborn Station.
Okay, thank you. That's some good information for anybody who is studious enough to actually go ahead and actually do the research.
Yeah, it's open to the public, so anyone can come through and have a tour. We've got a museum and a library, so anyone can come through if they want to.
Okay, you might have to give us a tour, my brother. You might have to give us a tour. I might have to arrange a Titans TV tour to the Freemasonic Hall in Holborn on Great Queen Street. Okay, if anybody's down, let me know. We can also afterwards go to the British Museum as well and have a tour through there and see the other Grand Lodge. All right, family. Yeah, I've got you, family. I've got you. Don't worry. I've got you. Those questions go come at the end, though. All right. So let's get back into the presentation. Let me just mute my mic and let's get it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just as I was saying, there are lots of concepts and symbols that are still important in Freemasonry today that have their origins in ancient Egypt, or Nile Valley civilization, as I should say. And one of them is the temple. The temple is a preeminent Masonic symbol, signifying the hope for the future. It also represents the different stages of initiation, as each stone carries a different symbolic meaning. In Masonry, though King Solomon's temple receives the greatest focus, the first actual temples of great stature were constructed in the Nile Valley. That's really, something to think about, is that temples are really important because of their symbolic significance. And the first temples anywhere in the world, or first religious temples that we know of that are still standing in the world today, come from the Nile Valley. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so here you have two temples. You have the temple at Abu Simbel, which is in Nubia. On the left, and on the right, we've got we've got a picture of the temple at Luxor. So yeah, two magnificent temples from Nile Valley civilization. So if we go to the next slide, another really prominent symbol in Masonry today is the Great Pyramid. According to Masonic mythology, the foundations of the Masonic Brotherhood date back to the origins of architecture itself. Hence, so it is argued, there must be a link between the pyramids and the Sphinx, the oldest examples of monumental architecture to survive. Also, the spiritual doctrines embodied within Masonic ritual are extremely ancient, influenced by ancient Egyptian religion, or Kemetic spirituality, as we would say. The pyramid texts revolve around the notion of a circle of existence, which the Kemites themselves believed was represented by progress through the various chambers in the Great Pyramid. Another reason for the close association of Freemasons with pyramids is that the very first one was planned by the world's first architect, Imhotep, which was the Step Pyramid in Saqqara, built for King Joseph in the 3rd dynasty. So again, pyramids, when you think pyramids, think of Imhotep. When you think of Imhotep, think of stonemasonry, because he's, after all, the world's first recorded stonemason, the world's first recorded architecture, the world's first recorded geometrician, and therefore Imhotep holds a very, this African called Imhotep, and he was an African, holds a very high place in sort of Masonic thought and philosophy. So if we go to the next slide, excuse me. Yeah, so there's a picture of the Sphinx, an aerial view, which we call it a Sphinx because of the Greeks, but it's actually called Sheshet Ankh, which in English means living image, and it's the oldest colossal statue in Egypt. It's really old, actually. Yeah, so if we go to the next slide, here are the pyramids. You've got the pyramids of Giza on the bottom left. You've got the Step Pyramid, which Imhotep planned and designed at the top left. And on the top right, you've got the Kushite pyramids in Nubia. Yeah, so there you are. Yeah, some of the oldest pyramids anywhere in the world. Next slide. Yeah, so columns are really important too, because columns in masonry symbolize, amongst other things, wisdom and understanding. And the oldest columns anywhere in the world that carry this sort of deep spiritual understanding are the columns of Hathor in Dendera in Egypt. Hathor, for lack of a better term, is an ancient Egyptian goddess who represents fertility. And if we go to the next slide, I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. Next slide, brother. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so those are the columns. These columns are, by the way, if you know what a column is, it's a pillar. These pillars you see with the face of Hathor at the top of them is what I'm talking about. And columns are really important in Masonic sort of spirituality and philosophy, whatever you want to call it. And it's because, again, as I said earlier, they represent wisdom and understanding and strength and continuity. And that comes from ancient Egypt too. So if we go to the next slide. The all-seeing eye, which represents the eye of God, or in Masonic parlance, the supreme being, watching over mankind. Its origin is traced to Kemet as the eye of Horus, or Heru, as we would say. And it's also called the Wajet. I see Gabs wearing the hat with the Wajet on it. And that's where that comes from. That's where the Masonic all-seeing eye comes from. In Kemet, the eye of Heru is a symbol of power, healing, and protection. So if you've ever seen a dollar bill, if you turn to the back, what you find is an unfinished pyramid with a sort of eye at the top of it. And what that eye is the eye of providence in Masonic parlance. But the eye of providence has its root in Egypt, where it was called the Wajet, or represented the eye of Heru. So that's where it comes from. And if you look at this picture here on the left, you have a sort of Masonic symbol. At the top, you find the eye of providence, the eye of God, or the eye of the supreme being. And on the left, you have the Wajet. So that's where that comes from. And then, yeah, that's just another example of how one Masonic symbol has its origin in the Nile Valley. So if we go to the next slide, the sun and the blazing star. So yeah, again, the sun, very important in Masonry. The sun symbolizes wisdom, power, and goodness. The star represents divinity and/or resurrection. Moreover, the deification of the sun is sometimes interpreted as a description of Ra. Ra, and if we can go to the next slide, actually. Yeah, Ra's on the left here. And, actually, I think that's Heru. I think I got the wrong picture, guys. Sorry about that. So, yeah, but anyway, Ra in ancient Kemet represents both the creative principle. He's described as a creator, especially when he's joined with Amun to form Amun Ra. But he also represents the sun. And the sun, again, as I mentioned earlier, is about knowledge, it's about enlightenment, it's about truth, because you can see in the sun. And when you can see, the more you can see, the more you know. So there's a connection between the sun and knowledge and the creative principle, and that goes back to ancient Egypt too. So we go to the next slide. The apron, which is probably the most, probably the most visible example of Freemasonry. The Masonic apron reminds the Mason of his duties and obligations as a Mason, as well as his duties to God, his country, his neighbor, and his family. Its origins can be traced back to the garb worn by the priests of Kemet, especially the priests of Tahuti, as you mentioned earlier. So if we go to the next slide, if you look to the left, what you have is a modern day Freemason brother, and he's got his his apron on, and I can just tell by looking at his apron that he's a worshipful master of his lodge. And if you look to the left, what you find is a painting of the priest of Tahuti. And if you look at him too, he's got an apron too. So that's where that comes from. It's about spirituality. It's about knowledge. It's about wisdom. It's about reminding a Mason of who he is and his station at life and what his duties and obligations are. And if we go to the final slide, oh, who's that? Who's that one? Yeah, so there's lots of conspiracy theories about Masonry, but we can talk about it if you want to. So yeah, that's it really, man. So just a quick presentation, quick slide. Yeah.
All right. Let's get it in. Let's get it in. Oh man, the Baphomet, or what I like to call Muhammad.
Oh.
For those that know, they know, right? Ahmed Muhammad says, Kalam, you work for the Illuminati, bro. He's also talking about what's he saying? The devil Kemetic worshippers. Wow, that's what you said to me the other day. You stick up for freedom of speech and for people not to have the right to insult other people's way of life and so forth, but yet you are calling the Kemetics devil worshippers. Again, come on, my brothers, man. Anyways, let me see. Family, if you got any questions, please drop them right now. Let me see, what's the time? What is the time? I want to know if I've got to close on this particular let me just keep quiet and just check. Let's see, family. We've got a little bit more time left. So we've got like 15 minutes of the live show going on. Please, again, if you're supporting Titans TV, okay, if you support Titans TV, please give us a big thumbs up. Okay, give us a big thumbs up. Let us know that you support Titans TV. You're here for us, and you're here to see us do good. That's all I want to know, man. Who's here to see us do good? Who's here to see that we actually share information, diverse information, and we get it in for the family. We get it in for you, family members. Like, what's the time now? It's almost 2:00 in the morning, but yet we're still up, giving you this light, giving you this information. So please show the love, show the likes. If you can share the link as well, that would be absolutely amazing. Also, there is a super chat button. There is actually a super chat button at the bottom. So if you find it in your heart to actually donate some money to Titans TV for us to continue the work that we're actually doing, trust me, even if it's £1 to £10 to £20, all of that actually helps. All of that helps us to actually progress in what we're doing over here for you guys. All right. So please share the love and share the love. Okay. Share the love and share the life and share the likes. Damn, it's late. It's late. So Honey Pharaoh asks, why is Freemasonry demonized? Okay. Why is Freemasonry demonized?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons why. I think a lot of it has to do with religion. I think if you look at the Catholic Church, Catholic Church was really powerful during the medieval period. And they suppressed basically anything that they considered to be anti-church. In fact, a lot of the scientists that we know today, like Isaac Newton and Galileo, they were on the run from the Catholic Church because they were bringing knowledge to the forefront that contradicted, in the eyes of the Catholic Church, the teachings of the Bible. So what the Catholic Church would do, using its muscle, its political muscle, would do is sort of oppress these scientists and philosophers and people who are going against the grain, so to speak. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these people had to go underground. You know, it's the fear of persecution that drove lots of Freemasons to go underground. And, you know, wherever there's secrecy, people will come up with conspiracy theories, you know, and these conspiracy theories tend to take a life of their own. So that's probably why, you know, a lot of it comes from religion and the misunderstanding of Masonry by sort of religious authorities. You know, so that's where demonization comes from. It's got nothing to do with demonology.
All right, and let me give a shout out to DZAH for actually donating. So thank you, family, for donating. Trust me, every little helps. Okay, so I love the support. I love the appreciation that you guys show me, because it lets me know, like, you know, because at times you're just here, just in front of the screen, looking at the camera. Like, it's very difficult to actually look into the camera and actually speak to the camera like there's actually people in front of you. So it's so grand to me when I actually see the response back from the family, when I see the likes, when I see the multitude of comments, when I see that you lot are sharing the links, when I see you guys actually donating, like putting, you know, your monies where your mouth is, to let me know that you guys are really here to support Titans TV. Okay, because trust me, if it wasn't for the monetary support, we couldn't keep the lights on, we couldn't keep the internet running, we couldn't keep the, you know, all sorts going on. So thank you for actually showing us the support. Let me go to my brother Harry Singh. He had a question here. It says, what does Mahabone mean? Mahabone mean?
I don't even know, to be honest.
Okay, okay, my brother doesn't know, unfortunately. Well, do you know, but you promised to take an oath to never reveal and to always conceal? Is that what it is? Is that what it is?
Got no idea.
I'm trolling you. I'm trolling you. I'm trolling you. Don't worry about that. Ask him, what is the difference between ancient and accepted Masons?
Well, there's no real difference. I mean, the word ancient comes from, I mean, there was a split in the Grand Lodge here in England between the ancients and the moderns, and they I mean, it was just a minor split. And you know, so yeah, so when they reunification, I should say, in the 19th century, you know, that's where the term ancient accepted came, because, you know, they started off as one, they split into two, and they came back into one. And when they came back into one, they merged the two terms, ancient and accepted. So yeah, but so it's no big deal. Yeah, it's just a historical thing. Yeah.
All right, all right. Let me just see if there's any more questions. It means some secret words. The master says to a dead body to bring him up again. Okay. Okay. Let me just make sure I've got all your questions. What does the Dajjal mean? Okay, no, that's for somebody. I guess that's for the Muslims. Ask my last question for me, please. Lady Divine, what was your last question? I missed it, Queen. I bet you get wow. Is that what you're okay? Let me just keep my mouth quiet. Let me keep my mouth quiet. Let me keep my mouth quiet. Where is Al Kabulan, Hiram Biff, and Solomon's Temple? What is your views on Freemasonry? Okay, unfortunately today we've got my brother on. We've got a Titan. We've got the Titan on right now. Okay, we've got the Titans on. So if you've got the questions, please tag Titans TV. It helps me to actually be alerted, to see it bold, to know that you guys actually got a question for our Titans. What role does the Baphomet play in the entertainment industry? Do you know?
Well, I don't think it plays any role, to be honest. I mean, it's the history of Baphomet. I mean, firstly, Baphomet isn't Lucifer. Secondly, Baphomet has nothing to do with Freemasonry. I mean, it goes back to this mystic by the name of Eli Levi. He drew up, he painted a picture of Baphomet for his own sort of mystic inclinations, but it's got nothing to do with, you know, the devil or Lucifer or Freemasonry or anything like that at all.
All right. Of color reached the 33rd level of Masonry.
As a person of color reached the 33 degree, is that what you said? Well, firstly, there's only 3 degrees in Masonry. Okay, that's it. First degree, second degree, third degree, that's it. Okay, entered apprentice, fellowcraft, master mason. That's it. The master mason is the most senior position, senior degree in Freemasonry. what people talk about when they talk about the 33rd degree, 33rd degree is they're talking about an appendant body in Freemasonry. So what you have in Freemasonry is the Blue Lodge, which is the first, second, and third degree, which is what Freemasonry is. And what you have beyond that of affiliated organizations with Freemasonry, appendant bodies is what we call them. One of them is the Scottish Rite, what they call Scottish Rite in America and here too. And in the Scottish Rite, you can start off at the 4th degree, where you finish at the 3rd degree at the Blue Lodge. You start at the 4th degree, and you can go all the way up to the 33rd degree. But that does not mean that you're somehow senior in rank to someone who's on the 3rd degree. Someone at the 33rd degree is no more senior than someone who's at the 3rd degree. It stops at the 3rd degree. These are merely symbolic. So I mean, are there black 33rd degree Masons? Absolutely, there's many. I'm sure there are principal 33 degree Masons, but it doesn't mean that you're somehow superior to a 3rd degree. It's kind of like school. Put it this way: the 3rd degree, the first 3 degrees are like school, right? Actual school, and the appendant bodies are like after school clubs. Now you can go to all the after school clubs you want to, but it's not going to change. It's not going to change your result in your final results in school. It's not going to mean that you're going to get a higher grade than someone who just goes to school. School's the important thing. It's the actual thing. But going to the after school clubs might help you, for whatever reason. So, you got to make the difference. But just to be clear, a 33rd degree Mason is not superior to a 3rd degree Mason. There's only 3 degrees in Masonry, 3 real degrees. That's it.
All right. Thank you. And let's see, what was the question? Please, could you advise us of what books would you recommend? I would assume on the topic of Masonry. I would assume, unless you've got other books you would just recommend.
Oh man, there's a million books I could recommend, but on Masonry, I mean, this is pretty good. It's called The Freemasons: Unlocking the 1,000-Year-Old Mysteries of the Brotherhood. The Masonic rituals, codes, signs, and symbols explained with over 200 photographs and illustrations. It's pretty good because it's got pictures and stuff like that, so it's easy to digest. Another one, I've got another book here too. It's called Freemasons, the Illustrated Book of an Ancient Brotherhood. Freemasons for Dummies. It's not the best book, but it's all right. I mean, if you're starting off. So yeah. And also, if you want to learn about Egypt and Kemetic spirituality and the connection, I would recommend getting these 2 books. So you've got Ancient Egypt, Gods and Myths of Ancient Egypt, and you've got Sacred Sites of Ancient Egypt. I think both of them are pretty good too. So yeah, there you go.
Woo. Those books looking nice and neat. I like that. And then we've got a question from Lady Divine, and she asks, has Freemasonry got anything to do with Kemetic? What is the connection?
Yeah, so it's like, if you look at what Freemasonry, firstly, you can't speak about Freemasonry without speaking about stonemasonry, because that's what we are. We're symbolically, we're stonemasons, and a stonemason is someone who designs and constructs buildings out of stone. So, and if you talk about stonemasonry, the first stonemasons are ancient Egyptians, or sort of Nile Valley Africans. And if you look at what they did, the monuments that they built, the temples, the pyramids, the Sphinx, all of these different symbols. If you're initiated into Freemasonry, you'll find out how are very important to us symbolically. So that's point 1. Point 2, the mystery systems in Egypt is what the Masonic lodges are patterned afterwards. It's in a way, in the mystery schools you had priests of Tahuti, and they were the ones who devised what's later called Hermetic magic. Again, Hermetic comes from the word Hermes. Hermes is the Greek word for Tahuti, and Hermetic magic, had a great deal of influence in the development of Masonry here in the West. And again, but pretty much all of the foundations come from Egypt. If you look what Freemasons are, you're talking about groups of stonemasons who are coming together and sharing their secrets with one another, because they're in competition with other stonemasons. because it's a business. So they would keep their secrets amongst each other, and these secrets would have sort of spiritual underpinnings, and that comes from ancient Egypt. The mix between craftsmanship on the one hand and spirituality on the other hand, that comes from the Nile Valley. Yeah. So.
All right, and one of the last questions is from Official Speakers Corner, channel Dawa. It says here, I want to know. Well, he's heard that Masons are paving the way for the Dajjal, aka the Antichrist. One-eye liar, we call him. So any links, or is this group a whole new thing?
No links whatsoever. I mean, I've heard people say, you worship Lucifer. Absolutely rubbish. I mean, firstly, Lucifer is only mentioned once in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah in chapter 14. And actually, it's a mistranslation in the King James Bible, because it translates from the Latin and not from the Hebrew. And what that verse is actually talking about is the Babylonian king. I forget his name. I'll have to look it up. But it's talking about a Babylonian king and not the actual devil. Lucifer isn't Satan. And people ascribe that to Freemasonry, because a famous Freemason by the name of Albert Pike had a book called Morals of Dogma, and he talks about Lucifer, and people put two and two together and got five somehow. So, but no, it's got nothing to do with sort of Luciferianism or Satanism or anything to do with that. Rubbish. It's a secular organization. We're not a cult. We're not a religion. If you're up to it, come and join us, and you seek for yourself. It's not a bad thing at all.
Okay, Harry Singh asks, is the Bible a Masonic book?
No. In every lodge, what you'll find is what we call a volume of the sacred law. And a volume of the sacred law is a sacred text. So again, in the Western world, what you often find in lodges are Bibles, because of our Judeo-Christian heritage here in the Western world. But if you go in the Middle East or parts of Africa, you'll find the Quran. If you go to India, you'll find Hindu sacred texts. So it's not one particular book here or there. We respect all religious books, because we believe that we're all united and we're all we all share moral truths. So no, the Bible isn't a Masonic truth. The Bible isn't a Masonic book, but we do respect the ideals and the ideas contained in the Bible, just like we respect the ideas and ideals contained in the Quran.
Okay. And also, it says here, my brother Pio asked, would be the dollar bill, in God we trust, why there is no explanation which God but the sign of Freemasons. So let me try to make that a bit more articulate. You see, we have the $1 bill in America, and right at the bottom, okay, you have loads of, obviously, throughout you have what would apparently be perceived as Freemasonic symbols. You have the pyramid, you have the capstone with the eye and so forth, and Latin numerals at the bottom, and etc., etc., etc. But at the bottom it says, "In God we trust." So the question is, which God, what God is it talking about? In God we trust.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the actual pyramid, there's 13 stones from the top, from the bottom to the top, and what that represents is the 13 states. The 13 original states of the USA. At the top, you've got the Eye of Providence, which is the eye of the supreme being, the all-seeing eye of God, so to speak. At the top, it's the writing, the Latin, it's called annuit. I wrote this down somewhere. Annuit. Excuse me.
Conceptuous or something.
There you go. Yeah, annuit coptis, which basically means it is favorable to our undertakings. And at the bottom it writes Novus Ordo Seclorum, which I think it means New World Order.
New World Order.
So in terms of what God we trust, again, you got to remember, Freemasonry is not a religion; it's a fraternity. The fact that we use the term the great architect of the universe to refer to the supreme being, indicates the fact that we aren't claiming any one particular God. It's a neutral term. Okay, so when I'm in a Masonic lodge, I've got Christian brothers, I've got Muslim brothers, I've got Hindu brothers. We all have our own particular conception of God. Personally, I'm a deist. I don't, I don't really deal with any religion. I'm a deist. But there are Muslims there are Christians there are Hindus there, and we all have our own particular conception of the supreme being. Okay, so when we use words like the great architect, the universe, or God, for example, it's a neutral term. It doesn't refer to any one particular God. That's all it is. It's a neutral term.
All right. You know what? We've actually reached the end of the show. So I'm going to thank everybody who's tuned in so far. It's been an absolutely fantastic build. We've unpacked, a very basic yet enlightening understanding of what Freemasonry is. What is Freemasonry? What is Freemasonry, my brother?
It's a fraternal order, a brotherhood, a fraternity.
Okay. Freemasonry is a peculiar system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. Wow, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I absolutely love the teachings of Freemasonry that has been espoused by my brother tonight. I've learned a considerable amount of information, new information. So it's always beautiful to hear things from another perspective. You know what? I've got a lot of Freemasons in the building who's actually standing up and they're throwing up their signs. So it's been absolutely wonderful to see everybody there. So I'm going to sign out right now and say peace and love to everybody. So I'm going to send out my fraternal, love and blessings to the family. I don't know if you've got any last words to say to the family.
I just want to say, thanks for tuning in, and Pan-Africanism all the way. Don't get it twisted. I'm an African first and foremost. So if you see that man behind me, that's Malcolm X. And Malcolm X said, when we come together, we don't come together as Freemasons or Elks or Democrats or Republicans or Christians or Muslims. We come together as Africans. So that's the important thing. So I'm gonna just leave it there. There you go.
All right. Peace and love. Bless.